Hello and welcome dear students. Today we are going to discuss about the evolution of Indian art. The main objectives of the topic will be to know about the evolution of art in ancient times, to know about the expressions of people from different cultures, to know about the artistic features of different dynasties of ancient India, and finally to know about the set shared attitude, values, goals and the practices of people through art. Now dear students, let's start with the introduction. Art forms are expression of people from many cultural and social groupings. Indian art history begins with prehistoric cave drawings. It is said to be a proof of a creative explosion when ancient people minds reach full development. In general, Indian art is an anonymous art because the sculptor or the artist never attempted to exalt himself. He constantly gave his best as a modest offering to his patron, the king, or channeled his creative energy via his works. Now dear students, let's discuss the Harappan art. The important period in Indian art history begins with the Bronze Age culture of Harappa. The Harappan culture flourished as ancient India's first urban civilization. Each of its features are distinct in artistic ingenuity, resulting in sculptural standard of exquisite beauty. Terracotta, the first creative expression of a human civilization, is a functional art. Word terracotta is derived from the Latin word terra cotta, which means baked clay. It refers to the primitive plastic material, which is natural clay that has been burnt at a low temperature. Because of the presence of ferrous elements in clay, terracotta has a distinctive reddish mud color. Terracotta production does not necessitate any advanced technological know-how or significant financial investment. They appeared in many forms with simple expressions. Stella Cromitia, a pioneering interpreter of Indian art, divides the terracotta artifacts into timeless and time-bound categories. The timeless terracottas are handcrafted without the use of a mold. The clay is formed by rounding or flattening it, driving into the points and squeezing it, and occasionally incising lines and fastening clay pellets in applique method. The Harappan sites' eternal terracotta mother goddesses are excellent instances of realism. They are portrayed as the progenitor of life, and hence mother worship was seen as a paramount. She symbolized the power of generation, regeneration and the life cycle. She became a fertility symbol and was associated with arable land, and she was worshipped by farmers and barren women who wished to have a child. These Harappan mother goddess figures closely mirror the creative masterpiece of Aegean civilization as well as those of Hittites, Philistines and Phrygians. Harappan seals, small masterpieces of glyptic art, demonstrate that the Harappans were miniature masters. They are little in size, but the carvings on them are gorgeous and accurate, demonstrating a superior sense of design. The majority of them were fashioned of cetatite, with a few in terracotta and other materials. The seals were mostly used for commerce, although a few were also carried as amulets. The majority of Harappan seals portray representations of bulls, either zebu or ox, with their heavy, developed and large carving horns. Although the symbology of the zebu motif is unknown, it looks likely that the iconic Bhavan emblem is tied to the cult of bull, which led to the Nandi and Shiva worship. One of the Mohenjo-daro's most evocative seal depicts a god with a horned helmet and bangles on both arms standing in pupil tree and looking down on a kneeling worshipper with hands raised in respectful salutation, prayer or worship. The narrative is complete by a human head resting on a little stool, a gigantic ram and 7 individuals in procession. One of the most convincing and frequently accepted connections between Harappa and Near Eastern glyptic art is the contest motif. Many Harappan seal features a masculine warrior, each hand clutching a tiger by throat. The fight with lions or the bull is the most popular subject in Mesopotamian art. And this portrayal recalls the story of the epic of Gilgamesh. Sir John Marshall identifies a magnificent seal from Mohenjo-daro with the bull-horned figure as is Shiva in his form as Pushpati, the lord of animals. The representation of Shiva on the seal is ithafilic. He has been depicted sitting cross-legged in yogic Padmasana. The image is wide arms pointing to the earth, as well as the yogic nature of the wide-lapped stance and the curving horns transmit power and establish equilibrium. Natural opponents, untamed and virile creature, a buffalo, a jumping tiger, a rhinoceros, and an elephant all circle the figures pleasantly. The undeciphered script is positioned horizontally above the headdress. Of all the plastic arts, sculpture is by far the most expressive. It can be divided into two categories: sculptures in relief, where the sculptured pieces are separated from a solid background made up of the same material, and sculptures in round with dimension. The figural projection from the given plane surface or background is very faint and delicate in the basic relief method, whereas the figural projection from the background surface is significant and noticeable in alto relief. A stunning work of art is a seated man sculpture in white, low-fired cetitite that has been identified as a priest from Mohenjo-daro, which is 17.5 cm in height by 11 cm in width. The figure's top lip is shaven, and a short combed beard frames the face. He is dressed in a basic woven flat or ribbon headbands with the circular inlay ornaments on the forehead and the small ornaments on the right upper arm. The flat's two ends run along the back. The hair is brushed carefully towards the rear of the head. Two holes beneath the sculpture's highly sculptured ears imply that a necklace or other head decorations was fixed to it. The left shoulder is draped with the shawl embellished with trifoliate motifs reminiscent of Sumerian sculptures. Deeply incised, elongated eyes are partly closed in a meditative contemplation. Overall, there is a hint of Greek style in the statues. A standing bronze figurine, which is 10.5 cm high from Mohenjo-daro, was dubbed as Dancing Girl, with an assumption about her occupation. When compared to other formal stands, the bronze art pieces excavated at Mohenjo-daro have more flexible qualities. The girl is naked, wearing several bangles and a necklace, and is seen standing naturally with one hand on her hip. Her long hair is arranged in a high bun and hangs on her shoulder, and she wears a cowrie shell necklace with 3 large pendants. This monument portrays the aesthetics of a feminine body as they were envisioned at the time. A sculpting technique utilized here is lost wax casting. Dear students, let's now discuss about the Mauryan art. There is an unexpected lack of highly sophisticated art after the Harappan culture. As time went on, the Mauryan era signaled a significant turning point in Indian art history. In terms of both fundamental ideology and character, this art is individualized. Emperor Ashoka developed a unique form of art with a distinct aesthetic vision and heritage in an effort to integrate India into a global cultural community. The freestanding, isolated monolithic pillars, around 50 feet high and weighs about 50 tons, that he built are among the best examples of Mauryan art remnants. They stand for an achievement in sculpting, engineering, and building. These blurs were chiseled out of enormous whole chunk of Chunar's fine-grained sandstone. The exquisitely realistic sculpture of the four lines standing back to back, as well as the smaller, more gracefully and dignified animal figures in relief of the abysses, all speaks to a highly developed form of art and to the incredible beauty, majesty, and vigor of these remarkable creatures. The life-sized animal sculpture that tops the Ashokan pillar has drawn praises from critics of the fine art. They stand out, are grandiose in conception and design, and are beautifully and precisely carried out. The Basra Bakhari line clearly represents the earliest stage. It has a clunky appearance and to some extent a clumsy execution. The Rampurva bull, lion from the Luria Nandhangra, and the Sarnath quadripatite exhibit excellence and a sense of linear rhythm. Line manes are highly stylized and locks are treated in different volumes. The facial expression is whimsical and the veins and muscles are treated with force and authority. Our national emblem, the Sarnath capital, is a wonderful example of antique sculpture that skillfully combines realistic modeling with ideal dignity and is finished with exquisite correctness in every detail. The animal figures depicted in Ashokan art are why and how far Buddhism is a matter of controversy. It is said that following the great bloodbath of the Kalinga War, Ashoka got pacified and accepted Lord Buddha's path of non-violence. Thus, the animals atop the columns are linked to Buddhism in some way. In the early Buddhist tradition, the lion usually considered as the king of forest and the most powerful and majestic of all the creatures, has a specific connotation. Sakya Simha, the lion of Sakya tribe, was the Buddha. The Bodhisattva is born in the form of a white elephant under the sign of a bull. Aside from its involvement in the mythology of great renunciation, the horse was viewed as another major emblem of royalty, of universal monarchy, in both temporal and spiritual sense, along with the elephant. At Sarnath's Deer Park, the deer represents the master of great enlightenment. As a result, in early Buddhist tradition, each of these creatures were imbibed with a powerful symbolic connotation. One of the most essential functions of Mauryan art was to impress and awe the population with the emperor's might and majesty. However, it lacked deeper roots in societal will, taste, and desire. So, despite its dignified demeanor, massive aspect, and civilized nature, Mauryan court painting is only a brief and isolated episode in the history of Indian art. Mauryan court art, like the columns and the animal images themselves, stand out. The Chori carried at the Dadarganj Yakshi from Patna is one of the best circular sculptures from the Mauryan period. This highly polished, sensual, tall, and well-proportionated freestanding round stone sculpture demonstrates elegance in the treatment with a round muscular figure, a round face with fat cheeks, and sharp eyes, nose, and lips. The muscle folds are precisely marked. Every fold of the fabric that wraps around the legs is exposed with projecting lines, creating a transparent illusion. The feet are adorned with the hanging beads, necklace, and hefty embellishment. The hefty breast represent torso heaviness. The hair is neatly put in a knot towards the back. Terracotta art made tremendous advances and evolved during the Mauryan period. The former period's fairly rudimentary types are being superseded by new rules in both expression and execution. When compared to the sculptures, terracotta figurines have a very distinct delineation of the body. The pillar capitals with imperial designs have little influence on terracotta figurines with Western trends. a Tamluk Yaksha sculpture in the round, presently housed in the Ashutosh Museum of Indian Art at the University of Calcutta, is of substantial size and reminiscent of its monumental counterparts from the Patna, Parkham, Pavaya. Despite the step frontal treatment, the figure's rounded plasticity is more vibrant, energetic and gentle. Now dear students, let's talk about the art of another dynasty, which is the Sunga dynasty. Indian art was not created exclusively for the affluent. The narrative art emerged during the Sunga period to appeal to a sizable population of illiterate people. The Indian Museum at Kolkata has conserved portions of the Buddhist stupa at Bharhat's art, creating a treasure trove of depicted stories. It portrays episodes from the master's life as well as the Jataka tales about Buddha's earlier births. Buddha is never depicted in human form in Buddhist art created before the advent of Christianity because his spirituality was deemed to be too ethereal for the intended audiences. His presence in ancient Indian art and his spiritual journey, which included renunciation, meditation, and knowledge, are symbolically shown here in rich details. The gift of Jitwana Park by Anatha Pindaka, who covered the ground with gold coins before it was handed by the merchant prince, is most graphically reflected in the Bharuch railings in a medallion. The emphasis was mostly on the refinement of the flat surface and frontality as opposed to perspective presentation. The freestanding, flat, smooth forms of yakshas and the yakshanis that clunch along the pillars on the gate and the railings of Bharuch stupa finest illustrate the native style, defined by its simplicity and folk appeal. Cholaka Divata is a prominent example of Sunga art, showing its indigenous identity and folk quality. There is no attempt at face expression, and the body is devoid of energy. She is a tree deity who sits erect on an elephant while having one leg or her arms wrapped around a blossoming tree. The extravagant jewelry, as well as the way the undergarments and headdresses are worn, shows up the era's feminine style. The figures in Sanchi comes to in a new world and the way of existence. They are enthusiastic and active. In contrast to the 55 figures in Bharhat, who all stands with their hands together, Sanchi's figures gracefully crossed their legs rather than awkwardly standing on both feet. The joyful figures, the dwarf-fish yaksha from the Pithalkhora caves in central India, carrying a bowl of abundance on his back, are another excellent example of Sunga art from 2nd century BC. His carefree broad smile and round tummy demonstrate his contentment. The two amulets placed on his necklace protect his disciples from evil spirits. The Sunga period is also a key time in the progression of terracotta art history. These terracottas have a fine fabric and are consistently baked light red or orange, with some having a crimson slip. Maurya's dignity is lost, and a new ideology and admiration for physical beauty is introduced. A significant shift in production technique was seen. The use of a single cast for generating heads that are hand-joined to the bodies are extended further by the use of a mold for their entire figure. This improvement resulted in excellent items with refined and delicate modeling. Experienced artists learned contour regulation and the linear rhythm became disciplined. Sunga terracottas have polished slim figures in pose of a beauty ease, graceful relaxation, and carefree languor. These characteristics represented the people's aristocracy and sophistication. The Sunga terracotta was inspired by Brahmanical tales and Buddhist Jataka stories as they were given an exotic appearance. Sunga figurines have a folk character. The Sunga terracotta spiceman's attire, costumes, curfews, and jewelries may also be discovered on the stone reliefs of Bharhat, Sanchi, and Bodh Gaya. The greatest example of this period is the Tamluk terracotta girl figurine, which is 21 centimeter in height, which is located in ancient Tramlipati, Bengal. Apsara Pancha Chodha Yakshi of epic lore are Maya of Asugosha's Sundar Ananda Kaviya are the two names for her. She has been represented as a young lady with a somewhat plumper face and a slim figure that is elaborately decorated. Her hair is presumably encased in a close-fitting bonnet with 4 rows of beads at the ridge, terminating in 2 flowery tassels, and she wears an incredible extravagant headgear. Dear students, let's now talk about Kushana art. The Kushana domain in the north allowed contemporary painters a new way to display their artistic genius. This time coincides with the emergence of 2 major Buddhist sculptural schools. Those are Mathura, located in the Uttar Pradesh, and Gandhara, located in the northwestern Pakistan and the eastern Afghanistan. The 2 schools are linked to the first anthropomorphic depiction of the Buddha. They fostered a hybrid culture, as seen by the multiplicity of deities of Greco-Roman origins. Kushana artworks are stiff, heretic, and frontal in style. The word Kushana art best defines the fusion of elements from classical, Iranian, Central Asian, and Indian origins expressed in organic, eclectic productions. Under the patronage of Kanishka, the Gandhara, Greco-Buddhist or Greco-Roman school flourished throughout the Kushana dynasty. The Gandhara region has always been a nexus of cultural influences, and the Greek techniques have had a significant impact there. The Gandhara school, which drew inspiration from Roman anthropomorphic tradition, gives the Buddha a young Apollo-like countenance. Roman-style togho clothing and curly, wavy hair. The method used to represent Indian Buddhist subjects is mostly Hellenistic, with Iranian and Scythian influences tempering it. The Buddha figures were more spiritual, with superb craftsmanship and sculptured primarily in grey and bluish grey. Some divine forms here frequently gain humanistic details with considerable regard to physical realism. According to the current local taste, the artists adorn these deities with mostiches, turbans, or jewels. The Mathura school of art has Indianism impact. In terms of Buddhist art features, this school is well renowned for pictures carved on stupa railings and steel sculptures depicting divinities of Buddhist pantheon, which is Buddha, Bodhisattva, and tutelary divinities, sculptured in the nearby sacred quarries molten red sandstone. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are depicted as cheerful and plump, with little spirituality. In terms of formal traits, sculptures found at Katra, Jamalpur, Kankanitilla, and Palikhir, to name a few, are distinguished by their generous proportion, broad shoulders, lorry chest, and round head with full cheeks and plump smiling mouth. The subtle melancholy of the faces, their down-turned gazes, and beautiful mustaches distinguish these mostly Buddhist artworks. The Kushana monarch have continued to wear the same clothing as their Central Asian nomadic forebears, including heavy kaftans, felt boots, hooded hats, and tunics with golden bracelets sewn on it. Later, the military elite's scale armor takes its place, replacing this style. The figures are given realistic features despite their immobile frontal positions. The face conveys age, high rank, and ethnicity through their expressiveness. The life-size statue of Kushana Empire, Kanishka, is the finest illustration of this technique. The king's headless body is seen in frontal perspective with his feet apart. The king holds a stately stance and exudes dignity. He is dressed elegantly in a belted tunic and scabbard. His garments give him an angular appearance, a hallmark of the Kushana period. At Amravati and Nagarjunkonda in Andhra Pradesh, a third category of sculpture emerged during this period. Buddha's life and Jataka stories served as the topic. The Buddha in white limestone have curling hairs, which is a Greek-influenced design element. The grace of the figures is depicted in a rare harmony in these sensual sculptures, which exhibits a mastery of intricate embellishment. They tell the tales of a mighty people's culture. Numerous dance and the music movements that are depicted in the reliefs conveys the joy of life. The Kushana period's terracottas are diverse in both form and content. Style-wise, they can be divided into two groups, refined and primitive, both of which have analogues in stone sculptures. There are several examples of the circular models in the Kushana repertory. They have a soft, sensual quality. A three-dimensional effect is produced by joining the two pieces of molded material, which represents an improvement over prior terracotta pieces in terms of technique. As a result, the Kushana phase's bold and high relief replaced the low and flat relief of the Mauryan and Sungha periods. The terracottas of this era's warm and deep volumes further emphasized the art traditions. Dear students, let's now talk about the last dynasty, that is the Gupta dynasty. The Gupta period, through assimilating the Kushana idiom, ushered in a great phase in the field of artistic innovation. The art of this era demonstrates an established idiom inspired by a mystic philosophy and transcendental thoughts that acquired popularity over time. Sculptures in stones, in particular, established the standard for plastic art, and terracottas of time followed suit. Gupta cultural artists placed equal focus on secular and religious issues. Because the Guptas were ardent devotees of many Brahmanical cults, iconography of various divinities became standardized and cult representation began to appear. Gupta sculpture revolves around the human figures. They exemplify the Gupta style's particular polished tastes and charm. The soft and pliant human figures move freely and easily. The Buddha figures from Sarnath and Mathura, with their delicate and pliant bodies, demonstrate that they are endowed with innate energy. The sculptural technique is more delicate here. The features of the face reflect magical and serene calmness. The modeling is defined by resilient curves, and the physiognomical details vibrate to a rhythm. To accentuate the plastic subjects, the Gupta artists gently removed any superfluities such as rich drapery, adornment, coiffures, and so forth that obscure physical attractiveness. Wet or transparent drapery became the norm, which undoubtedly enhanced the figure's elegance. What developed was quite natural, with no over-elaboration. Terracotta art was also given a boost by a burst of massive creations on a scale hitherto unseen in Indian art history. The Gupta painters flattened the backs of the terracottas with a sharp instrument or a bamboo strip. The usage of a double mold is uncommon and has either a hollow or solid interior. They were frequently coated with a deep crimson slip to conceal surface flaws and to make the figurine's surface smooth and shiny. The Palasbadi Sarilpur Trajar terracotta from Bengal, written in Gupta writing, in the later half of the 7th and 8th century CE demonstrate the delicacy of the Gupta tradition. These labeled art materials are the first of their sort, and they most likely contribute to the region's very early adoption of the Brahmanical epic. Dear students, that was all about today's lecture regarding the evolution of Indian art. Hope you have understood it well. We shall meet again with a new topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.